welcome to Pathology 101, or Dead People 101, or I talk about dead people on my birthday and it's ironic because it's my birthday and I was born. I'm talking about people who are the opposite of born. That's a long title. I'm going to be talking about pathology because I wanted to be a coroner, and then I realized you gotta go to like med school and stuff. And I was like, never mind. Basically, any unexpected or unexplainable death has an autopsy or an investigation. An autopsy comes after the first investigation, but typically they're pretty meshed together. So there's two roles in like pathology, like to do the investigation. There's the coroner, and then there's the medical examiner. And so the coroner is a public official, and they get elected or like appointed to be the coroner. And they typically were a medical examiner first, so they have some idea of what's going on first, you know? And they investigate the death. They're like the little police of the medical part of this. Got their little magnifying glass, and they're like, suspicious, you know? And then they make the death certificate. So like, let's say I died, a coroner would be like, they died, and then, you know, all the like time of death and stuff. And then, fun fact about the coroner, they are the only people that can arrest a sheriff. And then there's the medical examiner, which is what's really talked about in like TV shows and stuff. And when you think of like an autopsy, you think of a medical examiner. And they're a physician, and then they evaluate the medical history, and they do the physical exam, and they see like, hey, this is weird. And then in bigger cities, typically a medical examiner has to have a degree in forensics pathology. So for the coroner and the medical examiner to determine, yo, you died, they figure out the cause of death, which can be like sickness or like drowning or something like that, right? And then there's the mechanism of death, which is more specific. So like, let's say I died because I lost all my blood. I'd be loss of blood. Like, I like got stabbed and I lost all my blood. The manner of death, and that is the, suicide. Oh no. So sorry. Homicide. Oh, got messed with the wrong people. Natural death, a heart attack and died. Accidental death, I got in a car accident and died. Or unknown. Ooh, spooky. That one feels weird to me, but I'm not a forensic pathologist. I'm a 16-year-old who took one class, you know? And so, what they use really, like a lot, is the time of death. That's super important. You gotta be like, yo, they died at this time on the death certificate. So the coroner really needs that. And so the way they determine time of death is by the temperature of the body, and then insects. Can you imagine just like being like, going to work, oh, that is a body covered in maggots. Maybe they're used to that. I wouldn't know. The stomach contents, like what's in your tummy, what you ate last, your last known activity. So they get to be like, hey, yo, cops, anyone see this dead person? Like, who was the last person to see this dead person before they like died? And the cops get to be like, oh, grandma said they were riding their bike, and see what I can do about that, you know, like that. And then there's the post-mortem changes, which are really common. And so the post-mortem changes are rigor mortis, liver mortis, algor mortis. Say that 5 times fast. You can't. So rigor mortis is the body stiffening up. So like, let's say I died sitting on my couch and nobody found me for a while. Certain parts of my body would be stiff and they couldn't really move them. And then 36 hours plus is when full rigor mortis sets in. So let's say I wasn't found for like 48 hours. They're gonna take my body out and I'm gonna be sitting like this, you know? And then we got liver mortis, which is just the pooling of blood. And that could take between 30 minutes to 4 hours. Which is like a little funky, because like, you could be 30 minutes to 4 hours off. Like, But that's that. That's like just like if I were to die laying on my back, all my blood in my body would go to my back because gravity, you know, that's how gravity works. Then we got algor mortis, which is the temperature of the body, which is super, super, super important. And that is taken either from the liver or the butt. They will, like a dog, you know. Although this is for the most part pretty accurate and you get a rough estimate, it is a little bit difficult because the size of your body, the amount of fat you have, the temperature of the crime scene, your normal body temperature can all affect the temperature of the body. And so after all these post-mortem changes happen, and this happens within the first 2 days, you got decomposition. And so decomposition goes through phases just like a bruise would. I think there's red, and then there's a darker red, and then there's purple, and then there's green. Those are all your decomp colors, for the most part, for the beginning decomp. And so decomposition has purification, which is where your tissue becomes really liquidy, and this is when the body gets stinky. So whenever you're like, hear someone talk about a dead body, and they're like, that's such a distinct smell, this is what they're talking about. And then there's 3 stages to normal purification. We got normal purification, just the straight out purification. That's 4 to 10 days. And this is when the odor and the discoloration starts. So when the body starts to become that weird color and it starts to stink, is between the first 4 to 10 days. And then we have black purification. And like its name, the skin that is exposed turns black. And this takes 10 to 20 days, and all of your fluids release from your body. So like when we talk about how you like just ooze, this is what they're talking about. This is when that happens. And then there's butterick fermentation, and this is when you get moldy. Yeah, I never really thought about how, this takes like 20 to 50 days, but I never really thought about like I can grow mold. So then we have dry decay, which is what you think of when you think of like horror movie skeletons. This is when your bones start showing. And then this takes like 50 to 365 days to fully complete. Because I gotta get rid of everything. All your hair falls out, you lose your fingernails, all your fluids are gone, your skin's gone, you know, a skeleton. And then there's desiccation. Here's the word. It's a mummy. There's this like, I want to say it was an island that they released swamp mummies, because a mummy, although we have like the Egyptian mummies that we think of, mummification actually is more just the preserving of the body. So these swamp mummies were buried in this like swamp, right? Obviously. And their body was mummified because of the soil and the air and the water and just all of them mixed together made the perfect recipe for mummification. So stomach contents, again, that's something that you're able to be like, when did you die, girl? When did you die on me? So within the first 10 minutes of a meal being digested, being swallowed, eaten, you know, that thing, is when it starts to be digested. So a light meal will take 1 to 2 hours to fully digest, a medium meal 3 to 4, and a big meal like Thanksgiving takes 4 to 6. So then we have just a pathologist, and they determine wounds, and they measure the wounds, and then they determine the initial location and determine the height of the person. So there's a lot of different types of wounds. There's an incised wound, which is like a slash, which is like rah, or a stab, which is like rah. And then there's abrasions, like a scraped knee or rug burn, that really hurts. And then there's contusions, which is just the bruisings, and purple is 1 to 18 hours. Blue or brown is 1 to 2 days, green is 2 to 3, and yellow is 3 to 7 days. And then your bruise, for the most part, goes away, but it kind of depends on how hard you hit whatever you hit. And then we got gunshot wounds. Ooh. Type of firearm used is what they determine. The distance, the entry and exit wound, because it'll go like that, and then it'll go, you know? And then you have the track, like you track the bullet. So let's say I got shot in the neck, and then it exited out here, and then it hit this painting. They would be able to tell where I was standing based off of that. And that's really like a summary of what pathologists do. They are so cool. I still kind of want to be a coroner, I won't lie. Picture of my cat, because I forgot to put my sources at the end of the video, but it was just a slideshow provided and prior knowledge from my true crime podcast. Thank you.